Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for men who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of their lives. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. So we've all been there, the moment when time stops as you watch your phone slowly fall towards the ground and out of your fingers. The mistake has been made. It's too late to stop it. All you can do now is hope against hope that when that phone is picked up from off the ground, you're not going to be greeted by a shattered screen. Well, back in 2010, after cracking one too many iPhone screens, AJ Forsythe and Anthony Martin decided that there had to be a better solution. So at the age of 24, they started iCracked.com to help college students fix their phone screens and do it with a little bit of a twist. Essentially, they created an app that would allow for on-demand repair service, so wherever you are, their agents would come to you. But things started to get really interesting the moment that they sat down across from a man named Paul Graham. Now, in 2005, Paul, along with a few others, started what has become the most important startup incubator in the world. And in fact, Y-Combinator has given birth to Dropbox, Airbnb, Stripe, and Reddit, to name just a few. Well, in 2012, after being interviewed by Paul and his team, Anthony and AJ were accepted into the program. They started building their vision and their team, and in 2014, revenues shot past $25 million. And today, iCracked is moving far beyond phone repairs in order to offer on-demand and on-location services of all kinds. They have a hell of a story and some extremely valuable lessons to share with you along the way, so please help me welcome Anthony Martin. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Today, we are going to be hearing from one of the fastest growing startups that have come out of Silicon Valley and specifically Y-Combinator. And we have with us today one of their co-founders from iCracked.com, Anthony Martin. So, Anthony, welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, Mike, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, I've got a ton of questions for you today as I've been learning more about you and your business. iCracked, which brought in over $25 million in revenue in 2014. And if you could, give people a little bit of a background about what iCracked is, what you guys do, and then let's dive into what inspired you to start the business.
So what iCracked is, basically the easiest way to sum up what iCracked is doing is through an analogy. And we look at iCracked as the AAA for your smartphone. And, you know, when we think about that, we want to take a similar business model to what AAA did for cars, and being able to, when you're sitting on the side of the road and unable to be able to drive that vehicle, that AAA can show up within 15 minutes and have you up and running again. The same goes for your phone. These phones are now the remote controls of our lives. And when those are down, the connection to our world is not there. And so we wanted to make sure that we can build out what we believe is the world's largest technical network to be able to come on site at your convenience, whether that's your home or office or even a local coffee shop, to be able to have your device fixed within, call it 20 minutes. And you can go on your day without having to go to a traditional retail store that takes, a lot of time out of your day, and more than an hour of that loses productivity.
So, Anthony, how old are you and your business partner, AJ, right now?
Yeah, so actually I turned 30 this September. It's wild. My 20s are almost over. And then AJ is just behind me. He's 28. He'll be turning 29 in May.
So take us back to when you guys came up with the idea for this business and how you really, got started. Because I know it was... you didn't come to the table with a ton of previous experience, if you will, but you guys have managed to build something pretty amazing.
Right. Yeah. When we started iCracked, I was 24. So 6 quick years later, turning 30, and AJ was 23 at the time. We were both in college. AJ was at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. I was just down the road at UC Santa Barbara. We didn't have too much experience. However, we both had pretty entrepreneurial families and were able to kind of see them build their businesses growing up and really understand that, growing something takes a lot of hard work and it definitely takes time. And we had that kind of fearless mindset at an early age to be able to jump into something where we didn't necessarily have the experience to really take it on, but knew we would learn fast. So what really happened was when AJ was in college, he was one of the first of my friends to get an iPhone and was also very good at breaking it. Colleges are a hotbed for iPhone mishaps, and AJ was one of the best and repeat offenders of that. So when he would break his phone, going to the Apple store and coughing up $200 every time became a pretty big price tag for him, and decided that there had to be a better way to get this device fixed. And being that he's always been a great tinkerer and curious about opening things and putting them back together, why not do it with your $700 smartphone? So bought parts online, and finally those came in the mail, and tinkered with the phone for a few hours, and eventually got the screen back on, and got it up and running. And lo and behold, all of our friends had this same issue, and he became the go-to guy on his campus to be able to fix these devices. So it really started from humble beginnings of trying to solve a pain point. And then meanwhile, I was at UC Santa Barbara down the road working on a textbook exchange platform. Basically, I was trying to solve my own problem, whereas the bookstore was trying to give me pennies on the dollar after I've owned this $300 book for 10 weeks. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. And I see the way that they'll buy it back and then end up selling it to another student the next week for a full markup. I was like, there's a huge opportunity here. So as I built the peer-to-peer marketplace for textbooks, I also found how cyclical textbooks are, and being able to offer a solution 3 or 4 times a year was great, and it solved that pain point. But we looked at the smartphone market and saw how quickly that was growing and how big of a pain point it still was when you broke your phone. And we decided to jump in feet first and really scale out what AJ was doing on his campus across hundreds of campuses worldwide. And then now we have just over 5,000 technicians in the US, with 93% of the US population within 10 minutes of an iTech coming to you and fixing your device.
So I have seen, tons and tons of phone repair kiosks and malls and things like that. Were those available when you all first started, or were they all starting to pop up at the same time and everybody started to see this opportunity, around the same period?
So when we started, there really wasn't too many solutions out there. A lot of it was online, and a lot of it was done through kind of the first versions of generating leads. And those platforms are typically Craigslist, where you'd see certain people that would put a posting up and says, "Hey, I fix iPhones, and here's my phone number. Give me a call." Or here's where my store is, and kind of building it out that way. So it was kind of this really wild, wild west business. There wasn't any big player in the space. You had a lot of mom and pop shops starting to pop up, but there was no huge market for these repairs yet. So and now today you have tens of thousands of retail kiosks that will be able to fix your phone. And the one thing is, all of these are very fragmented brands, and they're kind of a fly-by-night sort of shops where you may not have the same warranty, or a warranty that covers anything more than the first 30 days. And so we wanted to really focus on changing that retail and service experience around your smartphone. And being that it's now 2016, we believe that you should be able to click a button and have someone come on site and solve your problem. So we wanted to do that around the smartphone. And our whole value proposition and premise was, we're going to come to you. You don't have to go out of your way to get this device fixed. You can continue on with your day, and within 20 minutes, we'll have that device repaired for you. And we're going to offer a lifetime warranty, because we have the highest quality parts in the industry. So on that premise, and us building out the nationwide network, we've built a very strong brand that kind of shadows the sort of fly-by-night mom and pop kiosks that you see.
Can you walk us through how this works? Do you guys buy, let's say, your glass for an iPhone from Apple, or are these coming from different sources?
Yeah, they come from different sources. It's taking a lot of years to really start to source the highest quality parts. And so we've spent plenty of time or plenty of trips every single year headed to China. We'll fly into Hong Kong, go to Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and meet with suppliers. And we'll meet with the manufacturers. We'll tell them exactly what specs we need to make sure that they are meeting our standards. And so we've spent a lot of time and invested a lot of money into building out that supply chain to be able to get those parts, because that's the way we can offer a lifetime warranty. We need to be able to stand by our product for the lifetime that it's on your phone. And so we had to do that on our own. There still isn't to this day a supply chain within Apple to be able to source Apple parts directly from them as a company. But there are a lot of massive supply chain set up for the iPhone ecosystem. And the other OEM that makes a large impact on our business is Samsung. Samsung, we do have relationships with where we can source parts directly from them. And I believe that Apple, you'll see them start to open up to their supply chain and relationships with the third-party repair companies. But I think it's going to be they'll only hook on to what they believe are the best experience for their customers to service those devices.
Gotcha. So you guys are back in college. You have this personal problem. You're like, hey, I need to fix this for myself. There's probably a lot of other people who could use a service like this as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, but most college students are not overflowing with funds and cash to start a business like this. Where did y'all get your start? How did that process go?
So getting started, luckily the business was generating cash from the very beginning. Every time we would, the big costs that we had were buying parts. And then in the beginning, both AJ and I were focused on fixing phones ourselves to be able to fund the business and to be able to buy more parts while we were building out the website, while we were putting out job listings across hundreds of college campuses and basically sourcing what we believe were going to be good technicians and provide them all the tools, parts, and marketing material for them to be able to do exactly what we were doing at the time. So we tried to fund the business as much as possible from that. In the beginning, of course, and as you're scaling up, the demands of inventory, and particularly are higher than what our cash flow probably permitted. So we were able to, with some money that I was able to acquire from selling a business, and also definitely spending some time convincing my dad that it was a good idea to be able to invest some money into iCracked. We were able to get the first $10,000, start buying a more significant portion of parts, and really just started from grassroots on building out a brand. So I'd say, for us, the capital requirements weren't huge. They were big for us, being that we were 23 and 24 years old. But, really, you can start a business with a very small amount of capital and sweat equity, and that'll get you a long way.
So how did you come across Paul Graham?
Yeah, Paul Graham. So basically, in the beginning of iCracked, we were both kind of working out of our own towns. AJ was in San Luis Obispo. I was in Santa Barbara, and we were both fixing phones on our campuses. And for the first 6 to 8 months, really, it was we didn't have an office. We were working out of our homes. We were connecting every day and making sure that we were up to speed with how the company is growing and our responsibilities on both ends to make sure that we're meeting the demands of the company. But it was all done remotely. And so after about 8 months, AJ had finally graduated. I was a little ahead of him in school. And we decided to move in together in San Luis Obispo and work out of his house. And so this was kind of moving up to us actually taking the plunge and moving to Silicon Valley. We worked out of the library in Cal Poly for that whole summer, and then finally said, okay, what is this place that we keep hearing about called Silicon Valley? It sounds like we need to get up there. And we went with our gut and decided to pack up all of our things. And luckily, AJ's older brother was living in San Francisco at the time, and we were able to crash on his couch for what we said was going to be a couple of weeks for us to find a place, and turned out to be a couple of months. And luckily he was okay with that. And so when we moved up to Silicon Valley, though, we finally found a place up in Sunnyvale, and we started operating the business out of there. And the way we had met Paul Graham was through us being on TechCrunch and just going through articles and finding out that this incubator called Y-Combinator was getting an application a minute for their winter program. And so we didn't know anything really about Y-Combinator or who Paul Graham was, but we thought that this was a great opportunity and decided to apply. I think really when we applied, we never expected to actually get in. Y Combinator up until that point was very focused around supporting the technical founders, people that have an engineering background that came from very prestigious schools or had a lot of great work experience that basically had an idea but didn't have any traction or an actual product yet. So obviously Y Combinator has gone a long way since then, but I still remember the day that we went in and they asked us to come in to speak with them about our business. And we were lucky. We had a business running for about a year. It wasn't anything big at the time, but we had traction to show. And we were obviously going after what now is a very big industry. And so we got into a room with 5 of the Y Combinator partners and essentially jumped right into our pitch, and then proceeded to with them just grilling us with a bunch of questions. And I remember it was a very fast meeting. They were pumping applicants in and out of this room, and I think you had either 5 or 10 minutes to basically pitch your company. And meanwhile, we're sitting in this room, and there was this one guy who was grilling us with questions, and everyone else in the room was pretty quiet. And we just kept on volleying these questions, and luckily we had thought through a lot of it. And finally, who turned out to be Jessica Livingston, who is Paul Graham's wife, is like, it's time. You guys have to go. Time. We gotta stop here. We gotta stop here. But this one guy kept grilling us with questions, and we really didn't know who he was at the time. We walk out, and we later find out that that's Paul Graham. And we thought I remember going, AJ, I think that went very well in there. And he's like, I don't know. It was just that old guy asking us the questions the whole time. And so really funny that it ended up being Paul Graham, and he really saw the vision that we were building and was able to give us the nod to be able to join Y Combinator as there was actually only 2 teams of non-technical founders in our batch out of 84 companies. And so I think he saw the passion in what we were building and the way we were able to execute with small resources. And he really, risked a chance on 2 non-technical founders to see how it would go.
So what does that mean if you've been accepted into Y Combinator? What does that change in your life? What does your life look like on a daily basis moving forward?
What I loved about Y Combinator is the immediate social excuse to be able to only eat, sleep, and breathe your company, and do that every single day, day in and day out, living with your founders, doing everything together, and have the perfect social excuse to just do anything possible for the company, and being able to meet like-minded founders that are doing exactly that as well. So it creates a very good ecosystem, a support group to be able to go through these challenges that otherwise would feel a little isolating. Being able to do this on your own without that support and understanding that there's 83 other groups that are going through the same exact thing as you was very, very helpful. And then, as first time founders, or at least what I believe is our first company that really had a growth opportunity, being able to lean on the partners of Y Combinator who have all proven to build companies on their own, and for them to really weigh in on what you're doing and how you're operating your business was huge for us.
What was the biggest area personally that you were challenged in being a part of that program? The way I see this is you guys are you have an opportunity to mature and grow up really, really, really quickly. And what was that like for you specifically? Like what was really tough?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it's amazing. Both AJ and I are very curious individuals. And so being able to go into this whole opportunity that was very foreign to us, like I said earlier, we were sort of the black sheep of the group. There was 82 other technical founders building their companies, and then it was AJ and myself who are non-technical, adding value in different ways than everyone else there. And so we kind of felt very different than the rest of the group in the beginning. And we actually, while that could be looked at as a weakness, it turned out to be a pretty good strength for us. We've always, like I said, we've always been curious and very passionate about what we were doing. And I think that really helped differentiate ourselves amongst the group, especially when you go into demo day and you're raising money and you're showing all your traction and you're basically raising money to build a team around this vision. That became a very strong asset for us, especially when you're early and trying to build the initial team that's going to really help scale both the technology and expand the team to thousands of technicians.
And what's been y'all's biggest challenge so far as scaling the business out goes?
I'd say the biggest challenge for us was, first of all, building out a technical team. The technical side, both AJ and I are not engineers by trade. And so building that out and knowing how to vet great engineers was difficult in the beginning. And luckily, we're fortunate enough to have a very strong VP of engineering now that really understands and has bought into the vision. And so that's great.
Well, let me stop you there, because I've got to ask what the answer is, because I've had a similar problem, in my software endeavors. Sure. And after getting burned a couple of times, I just gave up on that, hiring tech people and engineers completely. And so, the interesting for those, to give people some context about what the challenges that I'm referring to, if you're a non-technical, non-engineering company owner, you literally speak a completely different language. And if you speak a completely different language, you don't know enough to judge whether this engineer is doing a good job or a poor job. And if they try to explain to you what they're doing and why, you don't speak the same language, so you don't really have an understanding. All you can either do is say, I don't believe you, or take their word for it.
Right.
Either way, you're in a place of ignorance, and that will always end up in a smoldering hole in the ground. So how did you go about that challenge?
So that's obviously the biggest thing for us. We would never knew if the timelines and the milestones and the difficulty of any of these projects that we had going, how realistic they were from an engineering perspective to, one, just get them done. Was it feasible to actually execute what we envisioned? And two, how long, and setting the expectations of reaching those milestones. So in the beginning, we really had to rely on our engineering buddies that we had met through Y-Combinator. They even helped write the first job listing for our very first engineer. So it actually sounded and like, being written from an engineer, and what the requirements would be to be able to build out, the different technical things that we needed on supporting a website, supporting all the iCracked apps that we have today. And so we didn't sound like idiots when we were building these, initial job listings. And luckily, we found some strong engineers right in the beginning that basically became what we believed are our technical co-founders, and really led that founding team to be able to really vet those technicians, the engineers. And before that, before we were able to hire someone internally, we had been working with a team of engineers out of Romania. And so we had there was a contract team of about 8 engineers, and we'd work directly with the project manager and be able to get what we needed done there. But once we were able to bring people in-house and have confidence and trust in some of the initial engineering leadership, we were able to make leaps and bounds on the technology side.
So as far as finding that CTO goes, in order to get someone with that level of experience, I'm assuming they have a track record at that point. Did you have to offer them any kind of equity to come into the business? I mean, you're new. I don't know what your revenue is at that point. I'm assuming it's not massive. And so I'm also assuming that the salary and all of that you can offer them is limited. So how did you handle recruiting all-star people essentially when you're in a really low revenue environment? Unless I'm totally wrong and you guys were just, flowing in cash flow at this point.
Yeah, and we definitely weren't flowing in cash flow. The business was close to break even, which was great, but every single hire we brought on, we were working on a shoestring budget. AJ and I weren't paying ourselves basically anything to support the business. So we weren't flush with cash. So like I said, bringing on anyone to the team had to take a lot of thought, or also just risk and the costs to bring on that additional person. So when we actually put out job listings, we just started through the Y-Combinator platform called Hacker News. Any Y-Combinator company could put a listing up. And luckily, Y-Combinator has built a very strong brand in the engineering community. And a lot of engineers are looking at those listings because they want to join a Y-Combinator company. So I think that was a very strong competitive advantage. And I would say anyone that's looking at doing an incubator, we felt the value of the networks and the brands on being able to recruit engineers. And for us, bringing on the first engineer was huge. Honestly, it was a big risk for us. And we really didn't know at the time how great this engineer actually was. But we felt in our gut, we felt like it was the right decision. And a lot of things, especially as a young team who hasn't done this before, a lot of time you go with your gut and do with what you think feels right. And so this hire felt right, and we're very lucky that it was a very young engineer who is brilliant and was able to build out a lot of our core technology in the beginning. He was actually 20 years old at the time, had come straight from the UK and moved out to Silicon Valley on a whim because he knew that he wanted to work with the best engineers in the world. And luckily, we all hit it off very early on. And he was able to see the vision and really partner with us to scale out the technology side to make it what it is today.
Awesome. Cool. So you all had an opportunity to hire another, young and hungry individual like yourself, which was a huge opportunity for him as well. So that's awesome. Any massive landmines that you guys have stepped on that you can pass along as words of wisdom to everybody listening?
I'd say we have, of course, fallen on some landmines throughout the years. Some of the biggest things are obviously around hiring and then also outgrowing people within the company. And that's the hardest part is there's some people that really enjoy the work experience and the lifestyle of a small company. And that's why they come and enjoy or come to you in the first place. When you're a small company, they enjoy the flexibility. They enjoy the family-like atmosphere. They enjoy having a lot of control and input on everything throughout the company. And then as that grows, you kind of go from this, let's just say, dysfunctional family that works, eats, sleeps, and breathes together to building, a bigger organization that starts to feel more like a professional sports team where everyone has their roles. People are starting to specialize. You can't look at all parts of the business as easily, and you need to be able to trust your team members to be able to carry their own weight in different parts of the business. And, you start to build structure and process, and there's a certain amount of people that are able to make the transition from a small company into having hundreds of employees and the dynamics that change throughout that. And the hardest part was seeing different members either kind of actually buy into it and be able to grow within the company, but then also those that didn't want to see that and was complacent with how the company had been in the last year and didn't really want to see it scale, even though the needs of the company focus on different things and double down on training. We need to make sure our supply chain's working correctly. We can't just work out of a house anymore. We actually need to build a big company. And so the hardest part are those landmines of people who were once big advocates of the company sort of become either cancerous to the organization in a way where they want it to stay the way it is, even though everyone else is pushing to make it bigger and bring on people who are more experienced and can take the company to the next level. So that's the hardest part, I believe, is being able to identify those individuals that want to take the next step and are there from a learning perspective to continue to grow, and be open to bringing on new executives that you'll learn from and be supported from, and where it's not always going to be this ragtag team like with this wild west sort of environment where we're just doing everything, putting out fires and building what we can. We need to actually build some structure and process. So I think that's the biggest thing. The willingness to know that you don't know everything, to try and build a world-class team that you can continue to learn from, and be open to how roles change throughout the process.
So what is your official role at the company versus AJ's official role? And then I've got a follow-up question to that real quick.
Yeah, for sure. I think the best way, or a great analogy to sum it up, is we take two very different roles, I believe. AJ is very strong from a marketing brand perspective, and also building out teams and being able to scale up the teams to where they are today and be able to drive those initiatives. And so AJ really has to man the ship and make sure that everyone on the team is fully aligned on the vision of the company, and being able to bring on more people to that company, or to the company, to be able to support the demands of iCracked. And for me, as a co-founder, I need to be able to know the business better than just about anyone, all the ins and outs, and be able to see the dynamics of the market and be able to identify where the biggest opportunities are for us and where we should be doubling down. So I look at it as I need to be able to be overturning every single rock and being able to dig into things and see where we're going to strike oil next, and say, guys, there's oil over here. Let's build an initial team around this and start to generate revenue and build a valuable business from these new initiatives. So I'm constantly looking at the market dynamics, constantly seeing where iCracked adds value and what we can do as from like building out this stepping blocks, and where that can get us as a company, and be able to say, hey guys, I really believe that there's an opportunity, for example, with now that we've built the largest the largest repair company, we have one of the best makings to build the best insurance company in the world, and how those can be very complementary, and then go towards the first steps of building that insurance company and attaching it to what our existing business is today. So while I could be more nimble and dynamic and look at more opportunities, AJ is manning the massive ship of the team, and be able to man that and be the captain of that team, which is awesome.
So from the outside, taking a look at you guys, it would appear to me that what you really have here is a service on demand platform.
Sure.
Right? And so you could replace iPhone repair with fill in the blank, whatever. And you have the technical infrastructure to deliver that. And as I was going through y'all's website and stuff earlier, I was like, man, I wish they had this product in the version of car wash on demand.
Yep.
Because I would use that all the time. There's a few services out there like Favor is big in Austin. I use Favor almost every single day to have my lunch delivered. Instacart to have groceries delivered from Whole Foods. And the one thing that I haven't found is a car wash. And so for me, that means losing 2 hours a day anytime I want to get my car washed to go do that service. And
Sure.
So there's all kinds of different ways that y'all can apply the tech that you've built to provide any kind of service, which is awesome. So are there any, besides the insurance, are there any other future plans that you guys have to branch out into different services?
Absolutely. I mean, what we're building today isn't just about smartphones. The way we look at our mission and vision is we want to build the world's last technical network that the world will really ever need. And yeah, we fix phones today, but really the value in our business is the amount of technical minds that are curious about new technologies and are able to both service those technologies in a unique on-site service model. So when I look at that, is our training and technical minds are not we're not just where we can only fix phones. We're looking at all the different smart devices that will be coming out and that have come out in the last few years. And how can we find the iPhone of each category, especially around the smart home and Internet of Things, and be able to be the service layer for those devices. So while these OEMs are building the next smart lock and the doorbell or the thermostats or things like that, most of these require an advanced level of install or repair. And we want to be able to be that one solution for them to be able to connect to our technical network and be able to have, the modern day Geek Squad for whatever device that they're creating. And I think that that's very valuable, considering a lot of these devices, once they're set up, it's very easy and simple, and the value proposition is very strong, but there's a big hurdle into actually getting, your first Nest thermostat due to the advanced level of install. I would be a little worried about figuring out how to wire this up, and it's not easy for everyone. So we want to help support those devices to be able to help them scale and get the value proposition of their products into more consumers' hands or homes.
How far away are y'all from implementing that for a second product or service like a Nest?
Yeah, so what we're really focused on today is the core technology. We basically need to have the world's easiest APIs to be able to spin up a simple self-scheduling, is what we call it, interface where I can buy my insert product name here, let's just say my Nest thermostat, and then it says, great, do you want this professionally installed? When I hit yes, it spins up all the available times of our technicians that are able to go on site to your home and be able to install that for you. And so there's actually a lot of technology behind that platform. We need to basically connect all of our technicians through our apps and know everything about what their availability is, how far they're willing to travel, what type of inventory they have on hand, what they're certified and trained to do, and then being able to have that communicate with our backend and allow access to OEMs to be able to leverage that and be able to use a self-scheduling platform on their websites to offer that advanced install or repair features.
Cool. Well, you have a potential client on the call with you, and so we'll definitely have to stay in touch with that. We're building a super sophisticated hydroponic food production system for your house, and it is high tech, and it's roughly not quite, but it might as well be the same size as a refrigerator from a practicality standpoint, meaning that if something goes wrong with this, you can't really just send it back. Right. Somebody has to service it on the ground, and that's one of our biggest question marks right now from our business model standpoint is how in the world do we service these units all over the country?
Right.
So yeah, that's super cool. We'll have to keep in touch on that. Kind of a random silly question, but I have to ask: did you guys get any grief over the name iCracked from Apple?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, when actually the name iCracked came up was obviously in college. AJ was really good at breaking his phone, and he would joke that after he broke his phone that he downloaded the iCracked app again. And it was just kind of this funny thing that stuck, and it was that you would tell your friends at parties, and actually stuck as the company name, and we started to scale with that name. And so we were a little worried in the beginning after that, what is Apple going to think about
right.
The name?
Yeah.
Actually, when we started building the company, there was some hearing that came out that said that Apple doesn't own every single name in the world that has an I starting in front of it. And so there was some actual legal protection that Apple couldn't go after us for having iCracked, which helped us sleep at night a little bit. But, being that our business was pretty reliant on the ecosystem and, we want to add value to Apple, we wanted to make sure that they're happy with us. And so, up until now, we don't have any direct relationships with Apple. We have talked to a number of people in the organization, and they seem to see the value of us being able to service those devices, especially when, think of it from Apple's perspective. They have 1 billion or north of 1 billion devices where 20% of them are going to break in the first year of ownership. And they have just over 400 stores in the world to be able to take care of those. So there's a big bandwidth issue there. And iCracked wants to help solve that and make sure that, they have the service layer that they need to be able to focus on designing and building the world's best smartphones and whatever next devices that they're going to be building. And hopefully, we can help add value for that ecosystem.
Cool. Awesome. And so what do you need help with most right now? What is your biggest challenge, either in a business sense or on a personal sense? We're always growing, especially as entrepreneurs, always looking to develop. Where is your weak link at the moment that you're working on?
Our biggest challenges are always there's one theme that continues to happen no matter what stage of the company we're at, and that's continuing to recruit and bring on very smart people that know parts of the business that our team otherwise doesn't know today. And so how can we bring on more experience to be able to scale quicker and give us a unfair competitive advantage? So it's always around, in the last 6 months, we've really focused on building out a strong executive team, a team that comes from a smartphone insurance background or a very strong engineering background. We've brought on some great marketing minds and bringing on different business development people that are able to start making connections within, the big telecoms in the US or the smartphone insurance companies or major retailers where we can help service their customers and partner with them. So that continues to be a theme regardless of how big or small iCracked has been. It's bringing on smart minds that see the vision and how big the company can be and being able to figure out how we can all work together.
Oh, very cool. And last two questions for you, pretty simple. One, is there a must-read book that you would like to recommend to everybody? And two, where can people go to connect with you and learn more about iCracked?
Yeah. Okay. A great book that I love is 0 to 1. It was written by Peter Thiel about a year and a half ago. I think it's an awesome way to think about businesses and sort of the competitive moats that you can build around your business. And also, even before that, identifying what markets make sense and show a bunch of examples of businesses and brands that we all know today and what the actual value is for them to actually be able to build a massive business that no one can compete with. And so I think that's a great one. That's for any aspiring entrepreneur or someone who's just starting a business. You need to be able to identify that and look from within on what you're building and make sure that you're that you're falling within those guidelines. So that's a great book. And then if you want to find out more about iCracked, we're always working with companies and businesses today in the smartphone markets. We're always at trade shows. If you want, you could come by our booth at CES, or we all of course have our own blogs where we're talking about anything smartphones and also smart devices. And feel free to tune in. It's just our blog.icrack.com.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, thank you so much. This is such a cool story to see how far you guys have come with, your own unique and novel idea and the growth that you guys have experienced both personally and professionally. And so I wish you the absolute best. And I'm looking forward to definitely staying in touch and connecting with you guys on the future development of your app and what y'all are going to be doing with that from a service standpoint. So, man, thank you so much for the time today. And if there's anything that we can do as an audience to support you, please let us know. And, man, thanks for the words of wisdom.
Yeah, Mike, thanks so much for having us, and we'll talk soon, I hope.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. See you, Mike.
Broken beyond repair.